of inaction by this government. And I want to plead with you as a purveyors of information. It is not just enough to get a text or listen to a speech or an address. One of the core tenets of our profession is to be able to identify the core message in an address. And the core message, the takeaway here, is the criticality of those statistics. They are very, very critical. Because when situations like this arise, the tendency, the inclination or proclivity of human beings is to react emotionally. But here, in this government, in the Tinubu government, we are not reacting emotionally at all. We are reacting with empirical verification. And that's what the Honorable Minister of Information had just done. The statistics, the figures, the data, showing specific actions to ameliorate the long-standing insecurity. We all know that this insecurity did not start yesterday, nor started in 2023. But from the actions taken so far, if one is unbiased, you will know that from the plethora of actions taken in the last 2 years, if we had taken those actions in the last 10 years, we probably won't be where we are today. Ranging from the changes in the security architecture, the top brass of our various security agencies, changed in 2023, changed again few days or so ago, to reinvigorate and inject new enthusiasm and impetus into the fight against insecurity. These are not happenstances. These are policies and actions emanating from deep, very exhaustive planning and strategizing. And they are yielding results. And only, just as the minister said, a global organization recently published the fact that globally, in the last decade in Nigeria, the last 2 years had recorded the lowest incidences of insecurity. Locally, to us, even one incident is an anathema, is abhorrent. But when you look at the various figures in the last 10 or more years, and you do a comparative analysis with the last 2 years, you will see the tremendous efforts that this government had put in place and the actions so far taken to stem the tide of this insecurity. Insecurity which we know, except one is deceiving himself, nearly everybody in this country knows that there is no deliberate targeting of any religion for persecution. There are factors. Sometimes when these terrorists go to attack, they don't go to attack because of the religion of those inhabitants of those communities. They go to attack for different reasons, largely economic. Some may be political, but it's largely economic. But then, ironically, some of those communities are inhabited by a particular religion. So now to use the faith of the inhabitants as the motive for the attack is totally off the mark It does not reflect the reality on ground. And we all know it. So, my plea to you as media men, gatekeepers, is to note the criticality of the various action steps and statistics reflecting the results of actions. For instance, how many people know or is aware that the terrible attack on a church in Owo some years back, before this administration, if you recall, where worshippers were killed right inside the church, those marauders have been apprehended and are facing prosecution. Whereas some people still bandy that as, oh, where are those people who did this? Where are the perpetrators? They are not brought to book. They are not this. They are not that. Even the Yewotada, the one in Yewada, that happened in Plateau, in Benue, they had been apprehended, arrested, and are facing prosecution. And that's an eloquent testimony to the fact that government is alive to its responsibilities and is not shirking any, duties of protecting lives and properties. So it's important for us as purveyors of information, as I said, to be circumspect when it comes to reporting of sensitive issues. Because you need a peaceful, stable country to be able to practice whichever profession, especially journalism. In the middle of conflagration, you may not even have an office to go to. So it is in our own individual interest to ensure that we invoke that subject of mass communication in graduate school, which is called responsibility theory of the press, which means the press has a responsibility to the society in which it is operating. Because if there is no society, there is no press, there is nothing, there is no institution. So even on a selfish note, we have a duty to protect the sanctity of our nation and of our society so that we can practice our profession in an unfettered environment, in a peaceful, progressive environment. And what the minister just said about you supporting our security agencies in combating the security is also very, very important. And I'll give you one simple idea of how the media inadvertently perpetuates a wrong narrative. For instance, when terrorists kill members of the security agencies, like the military, the screaming headline is always X number of soldiers killed by terrorists. Killed. That's the active word. Conversely, when our military succeed in killing terrorists, the headline is usually the military says it or claims it has. That immediately creates a specter of cynicism and skepticism, unbelievability, which further strengthens the hands of the terrorists. It is wrong. When our military that we should be supporting kills these people, we say they claim. But when it's the other way around, we scream it that terrorists have killed, as if we are gloating over the killing of our security, those who are defending us. So I think, my dear colleagues, this is something we must ponder on and redress immediately. It's a low-hanging fruit to show our own sense of national patriotism and responsibility. And again, somebody asked the question, which the minister also answered, about foreign intervention of stakeholders, religious groups sponsoring this and that. Let us be factual with ourselves. That is not an isolated thing. For decades, before those of us in this hall were born, foreign groups had always been sponsoring internal division, especially in developing societies, in order to keep them down. Because the world, actually, it's like a scale. It's a scale. A scale has two arms. Now, the developed societies are up there. Their scale is up. So, the underdeveloped or developing, the arm is down. If the developing societies want to push up their own scale to develop, it means the scale of the developed must come down. That's the reality of a scale. So, do you seriously think that those who are up there will fold their arms and allow you to rise? We must think deeply before we start pushing out wrong narratives about our own society that these international organizations now use against us. Even this narrative of
about that. Then Somna from Arise, he talked about the treatment of minorities. First, you see, our constitution gives equal rights to all members of the Nigerian citizens wherever they are. There is no one that is favored over the other in our constitution. And we have to recognize also that Nigeria, by our constitution, is a multi-faith, multi-religious country. What this means is that everyone is free to practice his or her faith of choice without let or hindrance. Sometimes you hear these arguments about the minorities being attacked. The policing system and the security agencies will not in any way, because someone is in the minority, say he's not going to be provided security or is not going to be protected by the security agencies. Nigerian security is formed in such a way that they should be able to respond to any threat wherever they may be, whichever community that they belong to. But of course, sometimes access to some of the infrastructure leading to some of these communities make it sometimes a bit difficult to reach there on time or when this crime is committed. And government is looking seriously into that to improve on that. And that is why there is massive investment in the infrastructure you see going around in the country to also make it easy and smooth for the security agencies to operate. You talked about the policing system. You are aware that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, about a year ago, has mulled the introduction of state police. And it's not just him, he is also working with all the governors around the country so that they can bring this about. But you know, it's not something that the president can just do by a mere executive order. This is something that has to be done in collaboration with the subnationals and the National Assembly, because this will mean a great shift in our policing system, and the president is working with, hand in hand with the state governors to ensure that policing is more effective. You also recall that the president has directed the additional employment recruitment of other young men and women into the Nigerian police force, in addition to the massive investment that we are seeing within the Nigerian police force in the purchase of hardware and also in the welfare of these police people. Now, there's a question you said about foreign lobbyists and influencers, and you are asking whether we are seeing that happening. Yes, indeed. We can say that, for example, Nigerian government has been able to have a correlation between some of these lobbyists operating especially in the United States of America and the activities here. We have seen, and it's matter of public record. If you go to the records of the United States, there is what is called the Foreign Agents Registration Act. It is clear there. You have seen that some of the influencers of these criminal activities have direct relationship with lobbyists in the US who have direct relationship with some of the people who are shouting about this issue outside this country. It is a matter of public record. Once you go there and you check, you also find it. Then you talked about motivation. Yes, I think I've answered that. The motivation by the police. Government, since the president came in, is working hard, like I said earlier, to not just procure the equipment that the police and other security agencies require to do this work, but to also motivate them by granting them better welfare for them to do their function, to perform their functions very well. It's a continuous exercise, and government will continue to do that. Whatever it takes to ensure that Nigeria becomes safe and secure, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration is out for that. The whole aim is to ensure that Nigeria is rid of the menace of these criminal elements and terrorists that are making life so unbearable for some people in this country.
Thank you very much. Please, a round of applause.
Porous, and therefore, great work is being done. Only recently, the Nigerian Immigration Service has also issued recruitment notice so that it can strengthen the ability of immigration department to also effectively man our borders. This, of course, is in addition to the investment that is being done in technology. Nigeria is a very vast country, and the government recognizes that you cannot physically man these borders easily without the aid of technology. And government is already investing heavily in that direction so that Nigeria can be better secured. So I will say that yes, that is also true, but great work is being done to enhance the security of our borders. You talked about bandits, why they have not been officially targeted as terrorists. Information available is that the previous administration has already done that. The Buhari administration has already designated this as terrorists. You cannot be coming out and be killing people and then you are being treated as a normal person. These are terrorists, and the Nigerian government characterize them as such, and will continue to work to ensure that we deny them the space and the oxygen that they require to operate within our borders. The one that you said is unrelated to this is about the World Public Relations Forum. Nigerian government is working with the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, with the World Public Relations Forum, to ensure that this event is a successful one. And then you talked about the proposed University of Public Relations that is coming up in Nasarawa State. The Nigerian Institute of Public Relations is working with the Nasarawa State government, is working with the Federal Ministry of Education to finalize all the regulatory documentation towards the success of that. We believe that the federal government will work with the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations to ensure that we have this university come alive so that Nigerians can be better trained in that art of public relations. Now, having taken the last question, let me just appeal to our media once again. It's important for us to know that the issue that we have at hand, and even the issue generally about insecurity, is not one that has to do with any politics or region or ethnicity or tribe. Insecurity, terrorism is something that affects everyone. And like we always say, it is the duty of all of us, especially members of the media, to deny these terrorists the kind of undue publicity that they always require for them to continue to perpetrate these criminal acts. You cannot celebrate a criminal because he has gone to kill a member of the armed forces. Mind you, these men and women in uniform and those who are in plain clothes are working day and night, and sometimes paying the supreme price so that you and I can continue to live in peace without any fear. So, like other countries do, we have a responsibility to recognize the work that the armed forces do. Of course, we need to charge them to do more, but we must recognize them to do more. We should not discouraging them by, portraying them as being inferior to these criminal elements that are not patriotic, that are doing this so that they can create division and they can also create violence so that all of us will not live in peace. I want to assure you of the commitment of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration to wrestle these remaining remnants of these criminal elements to the ground. The president has zero tolerance for them. The president has also charged the security agencies. Recall his direct words when he was swearing in the service chiefs about 2 weeks ago. He has charged them with responsibility of flushing out, of taking out all these people perpetrating this crime wherever they may be in any part of this country. And this is exactly what they have sworn to. And we believe that going forward, we are going to see significant changes, significant improvement, leading to the complete elimination of these criminal elements from wherever they are. But we have to be careful and think as Nigerians at this time, to act as Nigerians. This is the only country that we have. We have to fight collectively to keep it together in peace and prosperity and along the vision of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, so that all of us will have a prosperous Nigeria to live in. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.